All of my roommates mpied me on the same night, mf. Alright, so if you have been reading my earlier stories, then you know that I have ended up in a bit of a free use situation with my roommates. In my last story post I explained how it actually started in the first place. In this post, I'm gonna explain how it went from just a deal with one of them, to a deal with all three of them. I would recommend reading the previous one first just so this all makes sense. Okay, so after making the agreement with the guy the first was closest with, I spend that entire month pretty much getting FCKED by him at least 4 or 5 times a week, and S**CK in his DCK pretty much every single day. At first, we were pretty discreet about it, we didn't want any of our other roomies to find out. But over time I guess we became more and more comfortable, and I guess we got a bit too risky. One afternoon, we were sitting in the living room with our 2 other male roommates, our female roommate was at work, and all of a sudden one of them said, "So, what is going on with you guys? Are you a thing or what?" I guess they thought we were secretly dating or just hooking up. At first we were like, WTF are you talking about? But they were like, cut the BS. We know you are FCKN. It's literally obvious. And I guess it was honestly. The rooms are not exactly soundproof, and we can kinda all tell when any of us are getting some action. There have been a number of times that we have FCKED while they are home too. Either in the morning before class or just at night when literally all of them are home. Anyways, they called us out, and we spilled the beans. The entire beans. There was no point in hiding it. I explained what had happened, how I was unable to pay my share of the rent, and how I begged him to help me cover. After my explanation, they were silent for a second. One of them is kinda quiet and doesn't really show any emotion, so I kind wondered how he was gonna react. The other, quite a bold individual I must say, "I want in," he said. WTFLMAO. What do you mean, you want in? I didn't understand what he meant as first. He explained that he wanted to be able to FCK me at any time too. That I would never have to pay for rent or groceries again. He would cover it. All he wanted was access to my mouth and PSSY anytime he wanted. At first I was kinda hesitant, but I realized that I was already doing it, so I might as well go all in, right? I told them, okay, let's do it. When do we start? At that point, our quiet roommate said, no. I was pretty surprised that he was the one to speak up like that. He was usually pretty shy, but I guess he didn't want to get left out of the fun or something. What do you mean, now? I asked. Let's do it. Prove to us that you actually want it. He said. He told me that he was going to be waiting in his room, and that if I impressed him, I wouldn't have to worry about anything financial for as long as we lived together, including my tuition. I wasn't going to pass up an opportunity like that, so the moment he closed his door, I stood up and went to join him. I'll be right back, guys, I said to the other 2. I walked into his room all confidently, got on his bed, pulled off my shorts and PNTIE, and pressed my face into his pillow. Are you ready? I asked him. His answer was to get on the bed behind me, and pull out his CCK. Somehow I was already soaked. I think I'm just a SLT like that, lol. The idea behind the whole thing just had me HRNY as FCK. He slid into me and just started FCK in pounding me. I was M***Annan into his pillow, and at that point I think everyone in the apartment could hear me. He FCKED me for like 5 minutes before pulling me tight against him and CMMIN in me. He didn't even ask if it was okay, and honestly I thought it was hot. I felt used and I kind of loved it. When I went back out, everyone was staring at me and I felt a bit embarrassed. Then, our other roommate said loudly, okay, my turn. He basically dragged me by the hand into his room and had me onto my knees the moment the door closed behind us. He was rough with me. He FCKED my THR* at hard until I was gagging and drooling on it. Right when I thought he was about to C*M, he pulled his CCK out my mouth, and bent me over the edge of the bed. He started FCK in me from behind and he commented on how wet my PSSY felt. He asked if our other roommate had C*M inside me and I told him that he did. He called me a WHRE and pulled out his CCK and made me LCK it clean before putting it back in my PSSY and CMMIN in me as well. He told me to wait in the room and that our third roommate would be in shortly. My PSSY was overflowing with C*M at this point. I was so turned on I felt like the slightest touch would make me C*M. When the third guy came into the room, he asked me where the other two had C*M. Did they mpied? He asked. I told him that they did. He said he wanted to do something but I had to promise that I wouldn't tell anyone else. I wondered what it was and I swore I wouldn't. He had me spread my legs and then he started LCK in me. He was so intense about it too. Tongue FCK in my double mpied PSSY like a maniac. I came FCK in hard from it in seconds. I was already so close. Then he KSSED me, and I could taste the C*M on his LPS. I had no idea he was into something like that. He whispered in my ear that he wanted my PSSY to only have his C*M in it. He started FCK in me and after a few minutes he came in me as well. Don't tell them what I did, he reminded me. Anyways, I have been writing for a while now but that is pretty much what happened. I have been free use for all three of them ever since and I have a lot more stories to tell that came out of this situation but I'll write those out another time. Hope you enjoyed hearing about it. I ruined my marriage in one amazing NGHT. I, F28, have always been a S***shul person. I have these deep, dark twisted S***shul FNT psi. I won't get too much into it but I will say my favorite categories are BBCGNGBN, LSBIN and CNC. I know. Don't judge me yet, it gets worse. I met my husband 5 years ago. We've been married for almost 3 years. He's the best person I know, however he's extremely vanilla. He's just so nice, even in bed. I want to be treated like a WHRE. But I find myself faking org SMS and being left S***shully frustrated more often than not. He's pretty much the perfect husband, he just doesn't know how to make me C*M. It's not awful, just boring. Last weekend, we planned to go out together. He was tired from the day and decided to stay home last minute. I was frustrated but I understood. I told him that I still wanted to go out so I called a girlfriend of mine, C. We met up, went to a bar in the next town over and met 2 guys. We flirted and danced with them. They bought our drinks and before I knew it I was completely FCKED up. We teased them saying how we'd hooked up with each other once in college, not true. The next thing I know, C and I are making out with her hand in my PNTIES, in our shared Uber with these 2 men and we're heading to one of their houses. That night, I FCKED all 3 of them. I remember eating C's PSSY while the guys took TRNS on me. I came over and over and over. I loved it. It was euphoric. When they were done, the guys NTTED on our tits. I was living my best life. I woke up around 6 a.m., still nked. I washed my face and wiped myself down the best I could. I was still riding the wave of the night before when I remembered my sweet husband. I don't deserve him. He didn't deserve this. How could I do this to him? In one night, I've done a lifetime's worth of emotional damage and I know it. I told him that I slept at C's to avoid drinking and driving. He was so understanding. He's been trying to be intimate the last couple of days and I just say I feel sick. I feel awful. I can't tell him I'm a WHRE. But I like being a WHRE. But I don't want to lose him. And while I feel like trash, I can't deny that was the best night of my life. Update. I told him everything. He came home from work today with a fresh haircut and my favorite candy. He told me he could tell that I've been off and wanted to cheer me up, so he wants to take me on a movie date, which has always been our thing. Woman facepalming. Ever since I woke up on Saturday morning, I have been more quiet and less affectionate. I couldn't even look him in the eye. He kept asking me what is wrong and trying his best to make me smile or make me laugh all week, which only made me feel worse. I am trash. I can't believe I really did this to him. I cheated on the love of my life for a meaningless orgasm, and while in the moment it felt great, sitting there preparing myself to confess what I had done to him, I could just die. It was so stupid and not worth it at all. I told him to sit down and that I needed to talk to him about something serious. He sat down with a concerned look on his face and put his arm around me. He asked me, "Baby, what's the matter?" I scooted myself away from him a little. I took a deep breath, and still without even looking at him, I blurted out, "I cheated." After a minute of complete silence, he looked at me. I still couldn't bring myself to look at him, and he asked me when and with who. I told him everything that I could remember about that night. I had only ever seen him cry twice before today. He asked why I did it. I told him about my sexual frustration, and I told him that it doesn't justify my actions and that I understand that I'm wrong. I begged him to please not leave me. I swore I would never do anything like that ever again and that I would commit the rest of my life to making it up to him if he would just please stay. I could see the pain in his eyes and hear how his breathing changed. He asked me if it was good, if I liked it. I couldn't bring myself to answer that. I started crying and he drew his own conclusions. He sat next to me, tears streaming down his face for a minute or two. All of those things I did was so fun and exciting and liberating, but now describing it back to him, I hate myself. I ruined my marriage by thinking with my clit. He didn't say anything else. He stood up, grabbed his keys and left, and I'm just sitting here crying because I know I deserve this. Y'all don't be like me. Don't cheat. If you love your partner and you're having problems, talk to them. I promise you I would have rather had 1,000,000 awkward conversations about what I needed from him than this one conversation about how I betrayed him.